Hey, how's it going, Mickey?
Good. How are you?
Doing great, doing great. My first question for you, could you have imagined a scenario 10 years ago when you initially left WWE that you would be back a decade later competing for a championship against one of the best in the world this coming Monday on Raw?
No idea. No, unbelievable. Can you believe? I'm just like, I'm shocked. I'm shocked and I'm grateful. And not that I didn't hope for this moment or pray for this moment or think or like hope, but then, there was a point where I go like, you know what? I just don't think it's in the cards for me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think and then I came back to WWE and was able to, come back and remind everyone who Mickie James is to some sort of level. But then, I've been gone for a year and a half with this injury and rehabbing and everything else. And I didn't know. I had unbelievable.
Mm-hmm. And in the last 4 years, you've competed on that takeover, that initial match with Asuka, of course, 4 years ago at WrestleMania, the main event of Raw, among other pay-per-views. But would you consider this upcoming match with Asuka on Monday's Raw to be your most important since coming back to WWE a few years ago?
Oh, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Since coming back, this will probably be the most important match of my career since coming back to WWE. Mm-hmm. I would say that, and I've been blessed. I've done stuff at WrestleMania and been able to do those things. But for me, ever since I walked back in that door, I wanted to win the women's championship one more time, at least one more time. And I think that this opportunity, the chance that I can not only go back in there and remind everyone who Mickie James is and why I am who I am, and I've done those things that I've done, and I've been able to wrestle and beat some of the greatest women's champions of all time. And Asuka is no different, and I feel like this time the difference is I know that she can be beaten. And so I have that in my hat. And I've studied her a whole lot more because I've had the chance to watch her grow since then. Mm-hmm. And I just, I've been so blessed to be able to come back, and I feel like I've been very humble on this journey and just been excited at every opportunity because I've got to work with some really amazing girls, but I've not had a chance to really come back and shine on my own. Mm-hmm. And, I think Monday is really going to be a test for me. And it's going to be an amazing moment, no matter what happens, for me, because I've been looking forward to this and I'm so excited about it, and everything, this whole, year and a half being off, been working hard and I've been focused, and this is the only thing that's been on my mind. It's like, I got to come back and I got to go for gold. That's all I can do. That's like, I got to stay focused. And so I'm excited, man. I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
And having already faced her twice before, you made a great point, too. I think you've had, obviously, the takeover match, but I think you guys faced off one-on-one again a few years later on Raw, but that was when she was still undefeated. So you make a great point that we know that she's been beaten by this point. We're talking 2.5 years later. But that being said, how does Asuka compare to other opponents that you've had over the course of your career? Of course, you faced practically everyone over the course of your career. Trish, Lita, the Four Horsewomen, Asuka already. But how does Asuka compare to other people you've faced up to this point?
I think because she's so unpredictable, she's so mysterious, Mm-hmm. You don't really know because she can adapt her style. She's so adaptive out there too, to really anyone. And she's intense, and she's also into playing mind games, which that's the one thing that I'm, no novice to, is a mind game. Mm-hmm. So that is one thing I think that she's definitely going to test me on different levels, especially with the fact that women's wrestling, there's so much of the level of expectations for women's wrestling as a whole is so much higher. Mm-hmm. And so we are going to be able to go take each other to limits that we would have never been able to do before, which I'm excited about that.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned your injury earlier as well that kept you on the shelf for about a year and a half, as you mentioned. Was there at any point during that road to recovery from the injury that you didn't think that you would be back in the ring at some point?
I didn't really know, not from a, whether I wasn't feeling healthy or wasn't feeling good. Because I'll be honest, I feel amazing. Like, I feel like this time off has been amazing for me. Mm-hmm. On every level, not just on my endurance and my health or whatever, but just on a psyche level of staying focused and driven and stuff. But it was more of like, if once you're away from the product for so long, you wonder if people are going to even care, if, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
The system moves on.
Mm-hmm.
Like, everything keeps moving on. It's not like we don't have a vast amount of female talent out there that would gladly step into that role in a heartbeat. Mm-hmm. And would shine, so it's just more of that thing of like, once you go away for a minute, are you going to come back, or will they need you, or will the people even care? And I think that, fortunately enough for me, the people did care. Mm-hmm. So that's cool.
And during your time away as well, we still got to see you on WWE TV as a commentator, doing commentary for Main Event, which was cool. How was that for you? Would you consider that as a full-time gig at some point when your career comes to an end down the road? Or was it one of those things you didn't really feel like it was a good fit for you?
I don't know it was one of those things that I didn't realize what I was jumping into there, because mm-hmm. I think that what we don't do is give our commentary and announce team and interviews, like their jobs are so difficult. And it wasn't until I stepped into that, because I'd done like guest commentary before, here or there, but never till I sat down in that chair and really sat there and worked with Byron and Vic and those guys who really tried to help, like, show me the ropes in the sense of like, to be a commentator, because it's a whole different role. Because I had only known wrestling from a fan's perspective and from a worker or from a wrestler's perspective of like how I watch the matches. And then so to sit there back and watch it from a commentary's perspective, but as a wrestler in a commentary's position, I should say, and still be able to give that insight, but also to listen to all these other things that are happening in the headset and stuff. Mm-hmm. It was the task. It's so difficult, and but it was really cool. It was so fun to do, and it was cool to just jump my feet in those waters and just test them out and see, because I'm all about learning all the different aspects of like behind the scenes, the production side, the creative side. Like, it's all fascinating to me, because it's what makes that world. It's what makes our product so unique and so, desirable. So I love it. Yeah.
And kind of, you came back to WWE at the perfect time as well, late 2016, early 2017, in the smack dab of the women's evolution. You were there for the first Women's Rumble match a few years ago, right when we had the first Women's Money in the Bank ladder match, competing in the main event of Raw, competing in the main event of SmackDown, which is, obviously completely different from how the women's division was 12 years ago when you were initially around 08, 09, where it was very rare that we got to see stuff like that. So kind of on that same note, when you compete in like the main event of Raw now, or in a Women's Rumble, is there that still sense for you where it's like, wow, this is cool? Or is it just kind of become commonplace where it's like, wow, this is just normal, it's just an everyday thing at this point?
Oh, no, it's always cool. Mm-hmm. I think that every time I go out there, like, I've always felt, like I say that because that ring is where we make our magic happen. So every time I'm out there, I'm always like, oh God, this is so cool, right? Because I'm living my dream. But in the same capacity, I think that you can never be complacent in that moment, even if it's in the main event of Raw. Mm-hmm. Like, it's like, you can't just make it, oh, well, we were in the main event of Raw. It's like, well, now we're in the main event of Raw. We got to make this, this definitely has to be the match of the night. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's my thinking, because now, like, since we have this moment and we're getting this opportunity to shine, we have to show and remind them why we deserve this moment. Mm-hmm. And why we deserve this, because it's not just going to be a great match for girls. It's going to be the best match of the night. And that's just it.
And one of the things you were also be able to be a part of in the last couple of years was that inaugural Evolution pay-per-view 2 years ago, which was great. The tag team match with you and Alicia Fox against Trish and Lita, which was great. If Evolution 2 were to happen, which it seems only inevitable at this point, would you have an ideal opponent in mind, whether it be from the present or the past?
I just answered this question not too long ago. So, because I say that, like, we have so many girls, and I don't really feel like I've had a lot of singles matches with any of these women.
Yeah.
Like, true, like, it's been all like tag matches or battle royals, different stuff like that. But if I was to do one match, and if I could only do one match, I would say it would be One More Time with Trish. Mm-hmm. And I would want to do that. Yeah.
And also kind of on that same token as well, obviously Beth Phoenix returned to WWE soon after you did a couple of years ago, albeit in a different role. She's a commentator now, but she's had her, fair share of matches as well. We got to see Kelly Kelly in a pair of Royal Rumble matches a couple of years ago, which was cool. So with that being said, is there anyone from that era, like the 2006 through 2010 era, aside from like a Trish or a Lita or someone like that you would like to see come back for a one more run, such as yourself in WWE?
Melina.
Mm-hmm.
Melina. I think still to this day, greatest entrance ever.
It's a pretty great
Seriously.
entrance. Yeah.
Pretty amazing entrance. Okay, well, fine. I mean, I'm maybe not greatest, but for females, I mean, it was iconic, I think, really. But I would like to see, well, I mean, she was so talented. What a Hellcat. Like, I loved my matches. She was always so intense. We had the first Falls Count Anywhere match. I always loved being in the ring with Beth Phoenix. I've always said that. She's one of my favorite people, both in and out of the ring. But she's just, I always love my matches with her. But I would love to see Melina come back and do something crazy. You know.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. I mean, we got to see you and Trish in the Royal Rumble a couple of years ago. That was before Evolution, obviously, but maybe it's not too far off. We get to see something like that as well. This is also the first time the WWE Universe has seen you in the face role in quite a few years. I think the last time we had saw you on WWE, you were a heel. Do you have a preference between the two, between being a face or a heel, or kind of somewhere in between there?
I love being both. You know, obviously being a heel is fun. I always say it's harder to be a babyface than it is to be a heel. But yeah, I love being both of them. It depends on the story, you know, and like, that's me. It's like, I really love creating those stories and those elements of like what that part is, because, you know, and especially because everything's so different now, because you can toy with those lines a lot more, whereas like to be a babyface before, there you couldn't break the rules, you couldn't do this, you couldn't do that. And well, now that's not cool anymore. So it's actually cooler, and that's the kind of babyface I am, is like, I just don't not like I don't care. I'm not going to go out blatantly out and break all the rules, but I can bend them a little. I can bend them a little bit here or there, you know. Or I'm still, you know, been in the game long enough to know how to play it and know what little mind games one other person might try to play. You know what I mean? So, you know.
And, you know, you mentioned the women as well that you've had matches with in the time that you've been back. And you haven't had a lot of singles matches with a few of these women, you know, like the Four Horsewomen. Of course, you had that feud with Becky a couple of years ago. We haven't really seen a lot of you and Bayley, so maybe at some point we get to see you guys square off one-on-one. Is there anyone specifically from any roster, whether it be Raw, SmackDown, NXT, whatever, that you specifically are really looking forward to working with at some point? In addition, obviously, Asuka on Monday's Raw.
Yes. Well, that match, obviously. Yeah, I say I have not worked with. I've not even stepped in the ring with Charlotte, not once. You know, I would also love to work with Mercedes Martinez, because, and I'll say this because I worked with Mercedes a long time ago. I've known Mercedes a long time, and I'm so excited that she's finally getting a chance to shine, and because she is awesome. She is amazing. So I would love to work with her. But yeah, I would love to work with a lot of the girls, but I mean, Bayley, Sasha. I've just not had a chance to really work with anyone on a full like program besides like just like tag match and stuff. I'd love to work with Naomi. She's so athletic. She's so freaking talented. And I think that her style and my style together would be just awesome. We could have a great match. I'd love to work so yeah. There's a laundry list, a long list, a shopping list, darling.
And you've obviously had an incredible career in WWE, in wrestling, and you've also had you know, success in the music world as well. So in addition to obviously winning your 7th WWE Women's Championship on Monday, of course, is there anything specific that you have your sights set on accomplishing in the wrestling world or beyond?
Oh God, I don't know. You know, this has been such my goal, such my focus is it's been this. I mean, if I had more friends, I'd say maybe go for the tag title. Sure. But, you know, we don't have friends in wrestling. That's the thing. No, honestly, I'm so excited for this opportunity. And obviously, I think every female would be lying if they said they weren't excited about the opportunity or the idea of Evolution 2. And I think that there's just the opportunity for so many different types of matches even that we've had yet to have, both on Raw or SmackDown. So all I think is that we can just keep raising that bar and keep expecting more out of ourselves, and the fans, you know, thankfully keep enjoying it. And we'll just keep raising the bar. That's all we can do.
For sure. And final question for you. Any chance that fans get to hear Hardcore Country at some point in WWE? As you know, you've used that as your entrance music in the past elsewhere. Any chance we get to hear it in WWE at some point down the road?
I don't know. That would be pretty awesome, actually. I would love it. I could come out in the Daisy Dukes and everything.
Yep, exactly.
I think so. I'm gonna call Vince. After I get off the phone with you, I'm gonna call him. You think he'll answer? Let's hope he answers.
Hopefully, if we hear it on Monday's Raw, then we know where we got it from first. So I'm looking forward to that. This has been great, Mickie. Thanks so much for the time. I appreciate it, and best of luck on Monday.
Of course. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.